We ended early because we started late. What's happening, Mark Bare Naked Willie? How are you, my friend?
Well, happy BS Friday Live to you, Dave. I like the quick intro, and sorry, folks, we had a little technical yada, yada, yada. So here we are.
Yeah. Well, hey, welcome to the world of technical yada, yada, yada. I'll give you guys an idea why. You know, sometimes it happens because of all this in the background. It doesn't always work out the way you want it to. We are professional, non-live professional streamers or something like that here. Well, that wasn't very good. That wasn't very good. All right, Mark, so we got an exciting show today. We have not only a scientist on the show, we have somebody that takes all of that knowledge, shares it on TV, on YouTube, right? And now going to be on our podcast today. It's the building science world. It's the environmental world. It's everything we wanted to happening right here on our show. And we've been working years to have guests like this on our show. But Mark, where are we at today?
So we're sitting here and people are tuning in from Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the LinkedIn.
The LinkedIn is where they're at today for sure. I can see them popping up. And if you're out there, please hit that like and share button. We're always trying to grow what we do. We're all about promoting people in this industry and people that are building it better. And this is no different today. All right, since we are running a few minutes late, I think we should just jump into this. What do you think, Mark?
You bring her in and I'll start the intro. You ready?
You bring her in and I start the intro. I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready. So,
all right.
So
I brought her in.
Here we are, joined by Dr. Tracy, and you might know her as Inspector Planet. Listen, folks, I tell you all the time, Mother Nature doesn't care. She's out there doing what she does. However, we don't always understand what she does. And this is why Tracy is on today. Welcome to BS Friday.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. You guys are incredible. The show is so much fun. So I'm super excited.
Well, we're super excited to have you here, Tracy. And I don't know how much you know. We're not going to catch you off guard too bad here. But we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will call somebody in your family and have them come on the show. And Mark's mother joins all the time, and it gets embarrassing. No, just kidding. We really do. Why don't you take 2 minutes and just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll start our conversation. I'll put you full screen.
All right, awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Tracy Fanara. I am an environmental engineer and now ocean scientist. My journey has been quite a long one, but it started at a young age. I started winning invention conventions. I like to create things that didn't exist in the world. You know, it gave me a sense of, control, like I can create the world that I want to see. And that's a lesson that I learned again when I started building things. And that really opened my mind to all of the innovation that is possible. In fourth grade, I'm from Buffalo, New York. In fourth grade, I learned about a hazardous waste dump site right in my area where industries were dumping waste for decades. Those toxins were leaching into the groundwater and the soils. People started building houses and schools, and there was cancer clusters and birth defects. And that's when I realized, I learned about that in fourth grade. And that's when I realized that everything in the world is connected. What we put into the environment eventually comes back to affect our health. And that incident called Love Canal started the EPA Superfund program, but also my understanding of how the world works and my passion to make the world a better place. And from then on, I was always interested in science, but also business. That's in high school, I was part of, it's a group called DECA. It's like FBLA, like a business team. And I won nationally for that. So I was really debating the two different directions to go to in college. And my dad was like, well, I could teach you everything that you need to know in business. I cannot teach you anything in science. And that's when I went that direction. And from there, it's just a really long story from how I got here to there, but just a lot of rejection, a lot of obstacles.
You know, the good news is, we don't have any time constraints. We're not like the networks and we got to play a sponsor video. So yeah, we got all day. No problem.
So
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing you.
No, I'm so excited because that instance with the hazardous waste and then the conversation from your father to say, go this way, that blossomed into all these opportunities that now you create for other youths to understand and to have that voice, because we don't always have that little voice that says go this way. So you're creating right, creating that spark in their heads. And the people that fostered it for you, I think they now know the magnitude of you fostering it for others.
You know what the crazy thing is? It's all because I had bad eyesight. All of it. All of it. I had Coke bottle thick glasses at the age of 5. And people just assumed that I was smart. So there was this expectation. And I wanted to live up to that expectation. And now what I'm trying to do is just allow these kids to see their potential, to see themselves as doing these amazing things and making the world a better place. I want to take away that mental limitation of the bar that is set because of their surroundings, their society.
Yeah.
So Tracy, I'm going to catch you off guard right now. Dave and I are going to leave the show. We're going to go see our optometrist, and we're going to get thick glasses so people think that we're smart. Because that I didn't realize that's what I needed all along. So we'll be back in a bit. Enjoy the show.
That's not going to make you smart, Mark. It's like you're just fooling yourself. No.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right, though, Tracy, when, there's that perception of what people believe, right? Just because you wear glasses, does that make you a nerd? Does that mean you're smart? All of those different things. And, finding your true potential and getting students to find their true potential is a really big deal. We see it in our industry all the time in construction, right? We have a lot of students and master carpenters, master electricians that do not do well in school. They don't do well in school, but visually and physically with their hands, their eyes, you show them something, they can figure it out in 2 seconds. You give me a spreadsheet, I roll over like a possum and play dead. That's what happens to me. I just freeze. And I think, what you're doing is you're not only doing the, kind of the lesson side of things when you're teaching, but you're out in the field. I mean, I watched some of your YouTube, and we're going to play one in a minute. You're actually bringing the physical world to them to help them understand it, enjoy it, and telling it in a way that people can relate. I mean, you could have showed up with your glasses on and your white jacket and, and your pocket protector and, got a little snooty on us if you wanted. I mean, but you don't. That's what's so great. And I think that's why people love you so much.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. It's just, doing something new for the first time is always intimidating. That's the hardest thing, is getting over that first wall. And for me, as recently as 6 years ago, I came to that wall with building. I'm an engineer. I have a PhD in engineering, but I had never actually, welded before. I've never used a number of tools that now I use on a regular basis. And I was so afraid to take that first step. And I think that no matter what new thing that you're trying to do, it's so hard. So my goal is to, take that wall that we see in front of us and lower the top of it, so you can at least see over it before you try to break through or jump over it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or walk around it.
Right. Whatever it is.
That's right. Well, why don't we show the intro video on your YouTube channel, and then when we come back, let's kind of talk about all the places you are, right? Because you're on the Weather Channel, you're on Fox News, you're on all these different channels, bringing the world together. And then I want to lead into, like, what is your day-to-day? Like, what is it that you do every day? And then also we'll get into what really inspires you to keep doing this. And I believe it's the kids already, but I really want to know. But nobody just wakes up and goes, I'm going to be a scientist.
Well, that video is kind of long, so you might want to just watch the last couple minutes of it.
All right, let's do that. I'll take it. We'll watch the last few minutes. Let's put it up.
Everyone go get some granola. This is a 45-minute video.
All right, you're gonna love this. The spot I picked, guess what? Tracy's in a white jacket. Just what you would expect. So that was accidental, but here, let's do it.
Species commonly known as red tide, but I am seeing something called microcystis. Now, this species is known to cause fish kills, and has caused drinking water problems around the world. But up to this point, we haven't known this toxin that's released called microcystin to actually aerosolize like the toxin from red tide. When we brought these samples back to the lab and opened them up, we experienced respiratory irritation right away. The reason why this is troubling is because if this microcystin aerosol is causing this respiratory irritation, this toxin has been linked with ALS and Parkinson's. And as you saw, we broke into someone's backyard to get this sample. So we know that these people live there. They don't have that choice to get away from the beach like many beachgoers do with red tide.
In the late 19th century, settlers came down to South Florida to realize that the land that they purchased was swampland. They needed to build houses and farm. They realized that a huge lake in the middle of the state drained down into the Everglades and then out into the ocean. And they realized that putting a big dam on the south part of this lake would allow the land to dry so they can start using it. So that's what they did. In 1928, a hurricane event came, broke the dam, and thousands of people lost their lives. The Army Corps of Engineers was called in to fix the problem, and that they did. So now, when that water gets to a certain water level, it is released to the Caloosahatchee River on the west and the St. Lucie River on the east. Lake Okeechobee is known for its annual cyanobacteria blooms, from legacy nutrients within the lake, but also from the high amount of nutrients flowing to the lake from agriculture, urban, and residential developments. In June 2018, water was released with a cyanobacteria bloom to the Caloosahatchee River, filling the river and canalways where people live, and going out to the Gulf of Mexico, where there was an existing Florida red tide bloom present. Florida declared a state of emergency.
This is something that's preventable. Cyanobacteria blooms are an ecological response of nutrient input, but the way that we have managed our land causes for high velocities of runoff at low water quality, causing erosion and of course, cyanobacteria blooms, among other problems for aquatic life.
Because of the way we've managed our land, covering it with concrete, we've disrupted the natural water cycle. Rainfall that once infiltrated into the ground, allowing for natural treatment, now runs off surfaces through pipes at high speeds, untreated, into our natural water bodies.
The way we can combat this is through low impact development retrofit. So taking the impervious surface like concrete, asphalt, and disconnecting it. So basically taking that water that went from your roof down a gutter to your driveway, down to a pipe network, and straight into a natural water body, and disconnecting them. So taking that roof water and putting it in a downspout in a cistern so it time releases into a rain garden, for example, allowing that infiltration of that water, that natural biological, chemical, and physical degradation of those pollutants, so that we have cleaner water reaching our natural water bodies. Did you know that every drop of water that falls on the ground in the state of Florida ends up in our natural water bodies? Our stormwater does not go to a wastewater treatment facility, nor does it go anywhere else except to our natural system. So it's up to us to make a change, to come together and improve our environment and in our public health for future generations to come.
Wow. I love it. Sorry, I got a new sound effect toy going on here, so having some fun with it. You're muted, Doc. Yep.
I swear earlier in the video, it's a lot more, happy and exciting. I have my intern and everything breaks and I make stupid jokes. So before it got serious, it was, but this was a really serious water crisis. And honestly, because of all of the publicity during that and all of the need to communicate science to the public, to let them know what was going on, because it did crumble economics. There was mass wildlife fatalities and public health threats. Because of that, it allowed me to grow as a communicator.
I had no idea that that happened in Florida, quite honestly. You know, I know that lake. We spent a lot of time in Florida over the last 2 years traveling the country in a motorhome doing our show. And, you know, you hear about it in New Orleans, you hear about these, you know, disasters that happen elsewhere, but you never hear about it in Central Florida because that's right. You know, I guess it's a little south of Central, but that's amazing.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, the problems, you only hear the effects of the problems, not the source, right? So the source, of course, was in the middle, south middle of the state, but the effects were seen on the coast and those estuaries. So trying to solve the problem at the end point is like just putting band-aids on the problem.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to encourage us to do moving forward. Regulations haven't changed in Florida, not since I became an engineer way back in the day. And so we have to take that power into our own hands and have native plant species and reduce our fertilizer use and try to use low impact development and disconnect that impervious surface.
Yeah, I like obviously your word choice is at a little bit different level than some folks are used to, and that's how we learn, right? And so there's permeable parts that we're looking for in our walkways and our earthways, and then the beautiful word infiltration, right? You take that down, and it says filter,
Yeah.
right? So whenever we can bring it to the fifth grade level, it's incredible. And when we need to get techier dives, we need to, because we have all forms of listening. And I love it how you said, we need to do this. We need to be the ones that are responsible. So that means self-empower. And that doesn't mean that you have to become an engineer, but that does mean that you can support the people in your community that have that skill set.
You're exactly right. I always say, of course, we need more engineers and scientists because that's where the jobs are going. But overall, we just need more people in every single career path to understand how the world works so that they can make decisions that will extend humanity's time on Earth.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
And Diana is joining us. What's up, Diana? She says we all live downstream, and it's very, very true.
do.
So, all right. So what is your day to day like, right? So there's this overcompassing problems that we face, you know, for the environment in Pennsylvania, all the way to Florida, to California, around the world. So there's a whole lot of stuff to tackle here on a regular basis, especially in your world and your environment. What does Dr. Tracy Fanara's day look like day in and day out, and where do you spend your time, and then why?
Gosh, it's super hectic all the time. So I was at Moat Marine Laboratory as a research program manager until 2020. And at that job, every day was different. Sometimes I was in the field. I was always working with interns or employees. There was something new every day. And it was always like developing technology, apps, websites, or treatment filter media, basically, or ways to mitigate red tide. It was always different and it was always innovative, but it was always local. And so when the National Ocean Service approached me and let me know that there was a job opening as the coastal modeling portfolio manager, which is, everything, I took it. And the reason for that is because with Florida red tide, let me back up. This is a harmful, toxic species of algae that is endemic or only exists in the Gulf of Mexico. And so these blooms start offshore at the ocean bottom. They come to the surface with winds, currents. They move on shore, and when they're close enough to shore, they can use surface water nutrients so runoff from fertilizer, wastewater overflows that happen in most coastal areas, bringing high levels of nutrients and bacteria. That's why a lot of beach closures occur.
Right.
But all of this nutrients can actually feed red tide. And I realized that over decades, we didn't have answers to these questions. And from my experience as an engineer, I knew that modeling was the fastest way to understand an entire ecosystem. And it turns out that Florida red tide is not a local problem. There are no local problems. These blooms were initiated from a number of things: ocean currents, the Florida Loop current, hurricane events. Some people think 40% of the US that drains to the Gulf of Mexico, causing the second largest dead zone in the world, has something to do with it. Blue holes, my friends are finding, might bring nutrients to these blooms. And Saharan dust coming over from Africa, giving a micronutrient iron to a different species of algae that when it dies feeds Florida red tide. All these things, you can't just focus on one location. So now what I do at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is try to combine all of these different bio, geophysical, and chemical components of our Earth systems to understand threats and protect lives and livelihoods on our coastline.
So I was fascinated one night. It was like at 11 o'clock at night or something. I saw the story and it was talking about the sand coming over from the Sahara and dropping it. And my mind went to the iron and whatnot. And then I'm like, well, good God, all that happens for a reason. So in a simple mind, is there something beneficial of red tide?
Oh, that's a great question when it comes to red tide, because there is something beneficial to that sand, right? The sand feeds the Amazon.
Yeah.
It's essential. It's part of this whole cycle. But yeah, with Florida red tide, a lot of scientists believe that it resets the ecosystem.
Okay. So it wipes out some things so other things can blossom.
Right. So some think that it controls invasives and allows for native species to remain intact.
So we're evasive, right? So
we totally are. Yeah.
Just saying it, people. She didn't say it. I said it. Okay.
We're invasive because of the technology and the things that we've developed through the years. Right.
Well, our practices and our systems are blocking. And so, so a reset. So some points, the modeling can diagnose or have a hypothesis that some of those resets, we need to just back off and let them reset, but go back upstream to Problemville and handle Problemville.
You're exactly right. It's kind of like wildfires, right? Wildfires need to happen. It's part of the natural, ecosystem and cycle. But when they got out of control, that's when humans intercede. And it's just like wildfires in the sense that our urbanization, our growth, our fertilizer use, our mining, everything might be impacting those blooms, causing them to be exacerbated or more intense and last longer. In addition to, we don't know what's going to happen with Florida red tide with climate change. It might be outcompeted by other species, or the blooms might get more intense. We don't know yet, but we do already see them shifting in season. So it's it's tough to model as far as red tide goes because we don't fully understand the phytoplankton system yet, like the whole phytoplankton community, rather.
Phytoplankton?
Yeah, so phytoplankton are plant-like organisms that photosynthesize, make their own food. So that's algae. So it's a different way to say algae, basically.
So can we create Taco Tuesday with red tide and algae and just have ourselves a yummy buffet?
We don't want to do that because Florida red tide does release a toxin called brevetoxin, which makes it so dangerous. So you can get neurotoxic shellfish poisoning if we try to eat red tide. But there are many non-harmful species of macroalgae that we can eat.
Perfect. I'm trying to see the benefit in all of it because I hear red tide and it actually sounds so exciting. Like if it was a new flavor by Mountain Dew, like it would probably win the charts, right? So it's a new skateboard line.
I mean, the University of Alabama claims it. They call themselves, red tide, even though their mascot is an elephant. I don't really, get that. But it's Alabama.
The red tide. I didn't know
And
that.
there's a lot of elephants that have, of course, for generations come from Alabama. We all know this.
Well, you know, but I mean, that's kind of a good thing for a football team. We're going to destroy you is basically what they're saying, right? With the red tide,
Yeah.
we are the germ you've been trying to get rid of. We're here to stay.
Right. But really, they're the most, they're fighting animal.
Elephants.
Is the nicest, most in need of our protection. Animal.
So if you're going up against them in school, please don't bring your fertilizers because it's only going to help them beat you.
You're right. And Florida has a lot of, actually Florida, with the phosphate mining, we provide like something like 80%, at one point at least we did, 80% of the world's phosphorus for fertilizer. So yeah, so we're literally, no wonder why we haven't had a very good record against them in recent years, we're just feeding it.
Yeah.
So you guys are giving them that human growth hormone that they need, I guess.
So
this is such a funny segue. I don't think we've ever talked about mascot names before.
Nope, it's first.
And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a mascot name, that's the most powerful thing out there. Please call it Mother Earth or Mother Nature, right? Because there's nothing more powerful than that. I'm waiting for that mascot. And then someone please send me a t-shirt because that'd be a cool one.
You're exactly right. The Earth is a system, and it's crazy to see from the smallest cell all the way to the universe how these systems mimic each other. And so when you throw a monkey wrench into a system, it's going to try to correct itself. It's going to try to balance. And we know that, equilibrium will always be, strived for. So so the more we mess with Mother Nature, the more, the less happy we're going to be.
So when you get up in the morning, like do you go to a lab? Do you go on a boat? Do you what do you do? Like what does your day look like? You said you had an intern and you got the whole education side with, students and young people. Kind of walk us through that. And then how do people get involved with what you're doing?
Yeah. So at NOAA, we've been pretty much remote. But I've gone up to DC a couple times, and on Monday I do leave from Mississippi on a NOAA research vessel with the NOAA Corps. And what they're doing is they're collecting data, bathymetry data is what it's called. So it's basically like topography, but on the bottom of the ocean. It's amazing how much we don't know about the bottom of the ocean. And then they're also doing a coral reef survey. So basically seeing there has been a disease that has just been ripping through coral reefs like wildfire since 2014.
Wow.
So understanding where it's going, how it's spreading, and the efforts to reintegrate new coral from a lab that's more resilient into the natural environment, and seeing how that is surviving and living and growing.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And how long
could that be part of the climate change? Like, could that be part of just the waters getting warmer or colder in different parts of the ocean?
Oh, well, that's happening as well. We're getting, a lot of the coral bleaching, but this specific disease, I mean, the source, as far as I know, is not known. I have my own hypotheses, but it's so, there's like real no validation behind it, and I haven't tested it or looked into it, but I'm just saying there are a lot of water quality problems linked to the land where this disease is thought to have initiated. Yep.
Well, those hunches and previous experiences develop the hypothesis and the next hypothesis and the next stepping stone. So how long is this duration, the Mississippi Fest?
So I'm going Monday and get back on Thursday.
Nice.
And then I fly out next week to the UK to film for a show called Weird Earth on Weather Channel.
Oh, yeah. How fun.
And then I come back to DC, and I mean, it's going to be a crazy 2 months. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, UK is fun. We just came back from a show in the UK as well, so love it, love it. We were
Really?
doing the
Where were
whole.
you at?
We were in downtown London. We were several places, but we were doing a story on the new underground that they put in over there. So
Cool.
we were interviewing the engineers and the 27,000 unique panels they had to make for the whole subway system using generative design and 3D printing and all that. So it was super, super cool. We love it. I mean, it's London's a lot of fun, and I'll look for your episode over there. When do you leave? 2 weeks?
That's awesome. Yeah, 2 weeks, and we're filming an entire season.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
we have a warehouse where I'm doing all the experiments, which I'm super excited about. And we're going to be in Bristol, which is right near Wales.
Yeah.
And Wales has a ton of natural phenomena that I've wanted to see my entire life.
There's a safari zoo over there. Dave and Jennifer tried to go there that our buddy built, and
Really?
you could stay in these little cabins, and then animals come along and tell you, hey, don't forget us.
He has a brewery. He has a brewery too.
Oh,
my
yeah, he
gosh!
has a
Can you
brewery.
guys send me that information?
Yeah. I will. He's a character. He's the lord of his land, right? They have lords
He is.
over there.
The goats come right in his house during our live shows sometimes, and start feeding on his back pocket. It's cool. Well, listen, Doc, we got a few more minutes left. Let's get into talking about the consumer, the builders, master plan communities a little bit. We are a building science show. So you showed the whole downspout and how we're running water and it's draining into the concrete or into the sewage systems, and then we're flooding certain areas with all this collected water versus using rain catchers or your own type of system to use it to rewater your plants, your grass, all of that stuff. So what should happen for like a master plan community? These big communities, are they expecting every homeowner to have that green thumb and want to manage all of that? Like, what do we do with this? Because we have a housing shortage of like 6 million houses right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's so tough because ideally you would create a master plan or a development using low impact development. And actually for my last chapter of my dissertation, I developed an app for developers so that they knew how much storage or what they can actually implement depending on their geology and soils, how much, land cover with buildings, that impervious surface they were going to have, and what type of plants or vegetation were native. And
you built an app for that during your dissertation?
Yeah.
Well, perfect question, then, Dave. That was timely.
You listen. We love to surround ourselves with overachievers, don't we, Mark? We do. Overachiever, right there. That's cool. An app, scientist, an app. Traveling on the Mississippi, drinking beer in UK at our friend's place. This is going to be good.
I know. But yeah, my experience as an engineer, I was in civil engineering. I had applied for 100 jobs before I graduated, and one of them, and I took the first one I got, which was in civil engineering, doing land development during the land development boom. So I was just thrown to the wolves. But I realized, how we were mismanaging our land. We were approaching every single project the exact same way, no matter where it was, no matter what it was, because it saved us time. We thought that it saved us time and money in the long run, and the developer knew how much time and money it would cost. So that's how they wanted it done every single time.
Wow.
So I went back to school to prove that there was a better way, that I can save the developer time and money through low impact development. So you don't need storm pipes. You don't need curbs. The only problem with it is the maintenance. So you have to have these homeowners associations actually do something. And I mean,
there's an idea.
Oh no, we have to work to make things better.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing is, you pay so much money. I mean, like, I would like to see, and the thing is, so many homeowners associations are insisting that people have grass, which is mind blowing to me because it's not native species, and it's the largest agriculture product worldwide and produces nothing. Like, really think about all the water, fertilizer, all the effort that goes into maintaining green grass, when our native plant species, at least in Florida, are beautiful. Like, people that let their lawn be what it is, you know, they can still trim it down, but letting those native species come up, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. But
Stop the grass. Get off the grass, people.
yes. And so here in Gainesville, Florida, everywhere is trees. Like if you look from a satellite, it's all trees, and people love to live here because of it. You know, like it blocks from the sun. It's super hot down here. Like it is such a desirable community. In fact, I haven't been able to find another one like this. And the reason for it is that because of sea level rise, climate change, and the fact that so many people want to live near coastal communities as it is, near the coastlines as it is, anytime you have to build, you have to put like 3 feet of fill on the ground. Yep. So you can't leave the trees because the trees would die. So this is a major obstacle to overcome, to keep our land wild and share it with nature.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We were living in Santa Rosa, Florida, right between Destin and Gainesville, right, and I guess in that area there, Pensacola, and we have a friend that's building. They had to do exactly what you were saying, bring in all of this fill and really build it up. And you know, the funny thing is, that's only one impact. You know what the other impact is? Now you're looking over everybody's fence into their backyard of people that have been there for years. And that causes a whole nother privacy issue. You know, so it's really
think about that.
Yeah. So it's super well, because, you know, they took them to court. They're mad. They're building, but it's not them setting the regs. They're just following what the new regulations are saying.
3 feet, 3 feet taller than the existing.
Depends where you are.
Yeah. I mean, because the water, because you're below sea level in some areas. Yeah. So that's kind of the problem there. Yeah.
I want to make a note. Diana in the chat is completely right. Some places they don't allow you to collect your water.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because some places with less rainfall, they need to sustain their base flows in whatever water body that they have for either ecology, habitat, water quality, or for drinking water purposes. So that's not always an option.
And it changes. I was a part of a group with the Sustainable Backyards program that we had to disconnect all the gutters and bring them through the rain barrels and yards. And then administration changed. And then you had to disconnect all rain barrels and bring it back to the combined storm and wastewater system of that perfectly wonderful water. It was really bizarre.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much so. So, all right. So what are some things the average person can start doing today, Tracy? Like, you know, if we really think about the environment, whether you live in the coastal plains or, you know, you live up here in Pennsylvania where I'm at, or Chicago where Mark is, whatever. Like, if you had any advice for people, because I'm sure people ask you all the time, like, how can I make a difference? Like, what could I start doing to make a difference?
I think that the first step, education, is the most powerful tool.
Yeah.
Just knowing where your water goes when you flush it, when you flush a toilet, where your water is coming from when you turn on your faucet, just understanding the water cycle, because environmental engineers have done such a great job of disconnecting us from our impacts, right? Like, we just put our trash out on the street. We just turn our water on, we flush our toilet. We don't think about it. We just think that that's the way it is. But there are all these people really working hard, and those jobs are getting harder and harder as our impacts keep on increasing and increasing. You've probably heard of forever chemicals and the fact that we don't remove them from the wastewater or water process. And you can't avoid that with bottled water either, just so you know. But I think that the most important thing.
Can you say that one more time? You can or you cannot?
Cannot. Water comes from the same place. It's just that bottled water has less regulations.
Got it.
And, you know, Nestle owns most of the bottled water companies. So something may say Zephyr Hills, which, by the way, that water is taken from Jenny Springs, which is not the same area, but it can be bottled from Ohio with a Zephyr Hills label. And, you know, but it all comes from the same place. Yeah, and some of the bottled water companies just bottle tap water.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's not like the old style commercial, pure artesian spring water. That was their phrasing to make their
It's
water sound different.
It's so funny. Like the point, like never touched by man. It just,
Yeah.
it blew, like really, like it's
Doesn't
a water.
make any sense.
Right. Doesn't make any sense. Or it would
It
have been
doesn't make
gone
any sense.
already if there was one pot of water. Not, no.
My
So-
favorite is the company that put it in their face and they spelled naive backwards.
Yeah. See, Mark, you don't need glasses.
That's
Like the glasses aren't going to
hilarious.
make a difference for you.
That was
That actually was pretty good. I like that one. Steve Burrows, a fellow engineer, also has his own show that he did. He did an IMAX movie that educates kids, and it's played in just about every school that I know of in America. My kids saw it.
That's awesome.
So, and he says, instead of thick glasses, us Brits use an accent to appear smarter. Hey, Steve, she's heading over there. I don't know if you joined late or where you've been, but appreciate you joining us today. If you're going to be in England over the next few weeks, maybe you guys should get together. Steve Burrows is a force to be reckoned with. He's a force to be reckoned with.
My favorite answer to people the over the pond is brilliant, right?
Brilliant.
When they use the word brilliant or going on a holiday, I'm always like, man, that sounds so much better than vacation or a cool idea.
Brilliant. It is. All right. So, Dr. Tracy Fanara, where can everybody find you?
At Inspector Planet, just one word on Instagram, Facebook. I think that has a / Twitter. I actually was just using YouTube to upload videos for my friends' kids. So I'm not regular on there at all, but I also have a website, Inspector Planet, and developing an app. So that should come out soon as well.
And I would say if you follow that at Inspector Planet on IG, make sure you follow because there's a lot of stories out there and some of them are just gobbledygook garbage. When you get the stories, it's going to help you tune in and it's going to help you to relate to what's actually going on in your backyard or your future backyard. It is the most palatable conversation. I think we need to have those in our building science world quite a bit better, the way that you have them and we didn't get into it today. So hopefully you'll be coming back because your work with kids, those videos are my favorite ones. You can see them light up and watch what someone else's idea is. And they come up with their own idea, like even different than the kits that you give them. I love that work.
Thank you so much. It means a lot because it's a lot of extra effort, and I'm so happy when it's when it actually is impactful.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, you better work on that. You're going to England, right? Better work on it, and you better get your mindset on fish and chips and all the other fun stuff that happens over there. Love it. All right. Is there anything we didn't talk about other than we didn't talk about the kids, but that's a reason to have you back. Is there anything that you really wanted people to know about you, about something you have going on, maybe an upcoming release of a new video series that you just want to make sure is out there for everybody to know before we end the show today?
Oh gosh, that's Seekers of Science. I have a comic book. So if you have kids, Seekers of Science comic book. And yeah, so you can go get in on Amazon or you can go to the website. All the proceeds, 100% of them go to giving free copies to underserved communities, kids in underserved communities.
Yes.
Perfect. And a shout out to Henry too. He's made a bunch of comments. We tested our filtered rainwater and it's far nicer than our mains. He's in France.
That's amazing. So I'm guessing that you use activated carbon, my favorite method of treatment.
Don't ask Henry something. You're gonna get a novel. You're gonna get a novel.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I love it. Diane says, keep fighting. Thanks for all the comments. Hi, Diane. You really filled up the chat today with all kinds of stuff. So good to see you. All right. Listen, Dr. Tracy, don't go anywhere. We'll come back to you after our outro and have a wrap up behind the scenes. Mark, should we go out with a little bit of party dance today? What do you think?
Yeah, go check out Inspector Planet and everyone have a wonderful holiday weekend.
That's right. Enjoy the weekend. By the way, we are not going to be live with Coffee with Dave tomorrow. I will be camping and probably having a beer or two myself, or 3, maybe 4, who knows. And Monday, we will have a pre-recorded show launching for our upcoming trade show, BCMC in Ohio. Jess Los, head of the SBCA, is going to be on. That is the systems building component. Join us on Monday, 1 p.m. We will be running that show. Everybody else out there, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Bye now. You got to dance.
I'm watching you dance, Dave, and that's got my feet planted.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye now.